the OG of Brown Girl Angels, actually. She is a VC, she's an angel, she was a venture partner, she is a champion for underrepresented founders. Shaherose Charania is a name that you need to put on your list. We also talked to Ishveen Ishveen is the founder of Open Sponsorship, the world's largest two-sided marketplace for sports sponsorships, things related to their serendipitous meeting that resulted in an angel investment, the right time to raise, as well as what it really means from both an investor and founder point of view to be a strategic angel. This was an episode filled with honest conversations, some good Desi vibes, some good Desi jokes. Whether a founder, angel, or someone just interested in South Asian women in business is something you're going to enjoy. Take a listen. Ishveen, we're going to start with you. When did your parents first understand what it is that you do when you were building Open Sponsorship?
I actually have a funny story about that. Pre-Open Sponsorship, I wanted to start my own agency to do cross-border deals. And I wrote like a whole business plan up. And my parents are both retired doctors. And I was like, I kept writing about sports properties and how I was going to help sports properties get sponsorship and sports properties. And I thought it was pretty obvious what was happening. I sent it to my dad and I was like, have a read through. And then he called me and he went, it looks very good. But do you know anything about real estate? And I was like, what? And then I was just like, you know what, forget that. I don't think they still know exactly what I do. And as I'm sure Shaherose can attest to, basically, when I get to take them to sports games that they actually enjoy, mostly if it's in hospitality, is when they feel proud.
Yes.
And when I get PR. And that's basically it.
That is such a South Asian story. Shaherose, what about you? Like, I mean, you left, I mean, which part are we talking? Like, let's talk about the part where you kind of knew nobody, moved to Silicon Valley, and you had your dad's support. And then was there ever a point where he was like, so like, what are you doing there? Like, what's happening?
That's such a good question. So, I would say they didn't ever really fully know. My dad probably didn't graduate high school before he migrated to Canada. Till the day he died, I'm like pretty sure his reading was not that great. But he was a businessman. He made, he had his own company. He was a distributor for for products coming products that were going to end up in dollar stores. So he was like a distributor of the dollar store folks. So he knew how to do business. So he understood that I was in business, but the technology piece was beyond him. And my mom was a preschool teacher, and she didn't have a mobile phone until after my dad passed away, which was like in 2011. And so
she held out.
Yeah. Like, I don't need this. And so when did they know? Like, they kind of knew because I would talk about the high level that, like the first startup I was at was actually very understandable. The first startup I was at was basically a VoIP startup when we were replacing calling cards. We were like a competitor to Skype. And so I got them to sort of use it, but they couldn't really, so like I guess there were moments in the journey that like if it was a product they understood. Like the calling card one called Jaja. When I went on to do Woman 2.0, they understood, but it's still very like, but the technology piece was like the part that they didn't really fully understand. Like, so to this day, I think the hardest part is now when I tell my mom, I give people money to start companies. She's like, well, are they going to pay you back? And then they're like, are you going to pay the people back that you got
you're
the
like,
money
who's
from?
paying who?
Money from? Right? Because like that's a big job. There was a lot of like supporting each other through loans, by the way, like within my community. And my parents were part of that. Oh, you need some money, I'll help you. So that's what my mom thinks about. She's like, some people didn't pay us back, right? So she said that a few times, especially when I told her my partners are other Indian folks.
I don't know how they would feel about a safe. I just don't know how they take that.
Not safe.
They would think it's not safe. Oh my God. Ishveen, my story is closer to you. Like, I started my career at 20th Century Fox, I worked as a film publicist. And in the beginning, my mom was like, when you come to the community, don't tell people about that. And I was like, but no, I'm a publicist. Like, I'm doing marketing. And she's like, this is how I won't get invited to things. It was only when I started, like, I used to get like the sway, because this is like back in the day of like really big spending on like the free suitcase with the Dr. Dolittle. She still has the Dr. Dolittle suitcase that she still like takes with pride to India. But like, it was only when the free stuff started to show up that it was like, okay, we now get it. I love starting with a question that's about our South Asianness, but I want to kind of move into something that I wonder, kind of just reading about the careers and the businesses you've built. Both of you have really, and I don't think dedicated is a strong word here, I really think both of you have dedicated to building businesses that are about making sure other people have the best opportunities that they can, whether it's athletes, whether it's women, whether it's immigrants. Is that something that's cultural? Is that this desire to build something that pays it forward? And whoever wants to take it first, is there any aspect that you go, my parents were doctors, so I can see, is that, did you ever kind of connect those? And it's the same question for you, Shaherose. I mean, the fact that your dad understood business. So whoever wants to take it first, I'd just love your thoughts on that.
When you grow up between cultures, I think two things happen. One is going back to India, like we used to go every 2 or 3 years. Like you realize your privilege, and even not even going back, but like I know that like I was lucky to be allowed to play sports and wear short skirts, which was requisite for playing netball, or spend Saturdays not at home doing what other maybe like South Asians were doing.
Right.
And so I think we're very aware of our privilege, and that privilege might to a white person be like, you played sports, that was a privilege, and I'd be like, yeah, I was allowed to do stuff that like other people weren't. So I think one is like you realize your privilege, whether it's because of like India or like different cultures, and two, there is this sense of, well, my parents did this for me, so who am I doing it for? Like, I actually got into sports because I wanted more. I remember there was this time where I was supposed to go back from London to Manchester, which is where I grew up, to referee a sports match, a netball game that like the Sikh Gurdwara was putting on. I had a big night out. I didn't make the train in the morning. Terrible. And they cancelled the game because no one else could do it. And that core memory. And so like, I think you realize, like very early, you realize like, if I don't do it, no one else will. But like, you
need
will
to step up. Yeah.
I need to step up in a way that maybe doesn't happen in other communities where there's a lot of people in entertainment or, or whatever else. And so I think like, yeah, those two things probably.
How beautiful a story it is that Shaherose is involved as an investor in your company, and especially Shaherose, especially given your story. But I'd love for you to kind of address that. Have you ever kind of paused to think about that over time and in all the different capacities in which you've served communities?
Yeah, no, all the time. It is actually a core motivating factor for me. It's like actually what my parents kind of did by example. So what Ishveen said is also very real for me. Going to Karachi in the summers, I was like, wow, my hair is short, I'm wearing shorts, I'm doing whatever I want, I'm not going back, and I'm being whoever I want. And that privilege very much was very clear for me. My cousins didn't have the same freedoms. They definitely were introduced to get married at a very young age, et cetera, et cetera. So that's there for me for sure. And as my parents migrated in the community that I was a part of, the idea of helping others was just like Sevā, right? Which you're familiar with.
Yes.
That was just like ingrained into my head from the beginning. It's like, you're here on this earth. Sevā is just what you do. You give to others, with no expectation of return. And so as that being sort of like a core value at a very young age, and then my parents embodying that as well. I was just telling someone on another call that, we were part of the welcome wagon in our community in Burnaby, where if a new immigrant came to town, we may not have known them, wherever they're from, by the way, they would stay in our basement until they found a home.
Core
We would help them,
basic
right?
experience. Core.
Right. And so like I saw that, A, B, I knew I had privilege. And then C, I had the freedoms. My parents were like, be whoever you want, do whatever you want. But with Sevā as the background, I realized 5 years into my journey in Silicon Valley where I could only help others. Like it was just what I kept doing, and I couldn't, like, why am I like this? And it's just really that value of like, to me, that's an expression of love. That's an expression of humanity. That's an expression of being in existence. And so there's just no other way for me than to give. And I feel like giving actually creates value. And I think being in this position of helping others is how you create value, which happens to be business value, which happens to be equity value, right? And I love that marriage for me. I love that it feels like giving, but it's actually creating.
Yes.
Right? And it's like equally so like fulfilling internally, but like it makes the world a better place. And like the other message I had other than Sevā every day was like, you live life once, like leave it better than you found it. And again, business is actually a wonderful vehicle for that, right? The system actually allows for you to create things that create more positive net positive value, whether you're doing it through your, platform to get athletes sponsored, or in my case, investing in other founders. And so it all just like, it's just the fabric of my life.
Do you, before we jump into kind of how you both met, because I don't think, outside of the business case of like looking at an investment, I think, as we know, especially early on, it is a value alignment with the founder. So I want to, before I touch upon that, do you resonate with this idea that it's still a choice, though, to serve and to be of service to others? Because I sometimes think that those who are like, no, I'm more about self-preservation, they don't perhaps have the internal tension that exists when you're not serving. Do you resonate with either of you, like Ishveen? Does that connect? Do you resonate with this idea that there is an internal tension in people who are naturally inclined to serve, and if they're not doing that in their day in, day out, or in their job or in their life, that it's almost like you don't feel at ease in yourself? Because it is still a choice. And you could say, I know I should. We all grew up with the South Asian experience of our parents coming here and, being immigrants and being like, hey, we came here for stability now, or help the community or whatever that is. But I don't think all of us are in roles of serving. So it's still a choice.
I definitely, take that and maybe flip it on its head a bit though. I think it's an interesting spectrum of serving, but then also looking after yourself. And I think we may have practiced self-love, self-care. My mother, I'm sure many mothers, like they've just given their all.
Over-indexed.
And that's what they taught us, and then that's what we did. And I don't think that always leads to the best outcomes either. So I think I think in my last few years, especially being a founder now 10 years in, having time to do yoga or meditate or like make sure I'm happy and, having gone through personal experiences and whatever else. So I think there's yes, give, but also look after yourself, because when you're nourished, you can actually give. And again, I loved what Shaherose said about Sevā is unconditional, but how much of giving is transactional. And that can happen when you are also you're not self-loved enough, and then it's hard for you to give without return, wanting something back. And that's that's a little bit of the danger. But yeah,
that we over-index on it, and then the oxygen mask theory goes out the window. Out the window was, sorry, that pun was just so perfectly done. I didn't even plan that one. So I have to take a moment to self-care for myself and compliment myself there. Okay, I want to get into the story of how you both met, how you both came into each other's worlds. It happens to the audience listening in many ways. I've made angel investments where I've reached out and I don't want to scare anybody away, so I shouldn't say chase, but I politely followed up with founders, and sometimes it's the other way. So, Ishveen, can you share what stage of fundraising, what stage of the company were you at when Shaherose and you, and when your paths intersected?
You know what? This is so funny because this is the first time we're being asked this, and I feel like this is almost like a dating story where I'm like, what's your version of this versus mine?
Okay, we'll
Because
find out.
we met first time when Shaherose was at Nike in Portland, and I had gone, and we had, and you know, the first time you ever go to like a big corporate office, especially corporates like a Google, a Meta, a Nike, it's a quite a big moment, and especially because I worked in sports. And so I don't even really recall how we met. Did I just reach out to you, or did were we introduced by someone? But
Did you see
we,
her walking in the hallway and you were like,
yeah, maybe just chased her
wait,
down.
she looks different amongst the sea of other
Yeah, other
people?
big people. And
Other people.
we had like coffee, and I was just about to fly out. It was like my last meeting before I flew out. So I'm actually going to ask for you to remember what you remember of it.
Yeah.
But that was our first meeting
Shaherose,
together.
this is your opportunity to be like, actually, I remember what you were wearing,
Yeah.
and I remember how your hair. So you're a
look,
valiant.
my memory, I believe, is Arjun Arora sent me a WhatsApp and said, this woman, this amazing woman I know, Ishveen from 500. I think you knew him, right? Is this ringing a bell? Yeah. He texted me. He's like, she's in town. This like basically it was like the day before you were leaving or something. I can't remember exactly, but it was like the week or whatever. And he's like, yeah, she's got this awesome startup. And that was the end of it. And I was like, of course I'm going to meet another female founder / brown woman in Portland where there's no brown people at all.
And building a sports related startup. Or did you even know that at that point? I mean, it
No,
didn't
no, I
matter.
did know.
Yeah.
And I think that's why he also thought of us.
Yeah.
And
And yeah.
actually, this is so amazing because it talks about, and now I'm remembering, because you talk about the chances you took that didn't work out or whatever else. I went to Portland because I was fundraising at that time, and I had been introduced to the Oregon Sports Angels. Do you remember them? And that's like a group of women who were mostly like ex-Nike who invested in startups, and I pitched them. So I turned up, I pitched them. I didn't get the investment, but then obviously met Shaherose and you know later, and I think like lesson to everyone there is like you're gonna take a lot of shots that you miss, but like
The dots connect.
yeah, so I wouldn't have been in Portland if it wasn't for them. I wouldn't have gone to Nike, I wouldn't have met Shaherose, etc., etc.
So you were fundraising seed, pre-seed, like what stage was the company at?
So at that stage I was at
I'm just in my head
500.
trying to calculate how much money Shaherose is making on exit. That's literally the only. I'm just,
No, so that was at our seed level, but I don't know Shaherose if she was doing angel investing, but that was not the time that Shaherose invested. And then we recently did well, not recently, it was at the end of 2021. We did basically what you call our Series A, which is when like Serena and David Blitzer led. And again, I think it was like a really interesting, so Ethan, who I also knew from 500, so shout out 500 here in a massive way.
shout out 500.
Yeah, so they had like a syndicate, and Shaherose can tell you more about what she was doing. But then I got through the syndicate. But to be honest, it was less about, I don't know about you, but it's like less about the dollar amount. It was more just to have like Shaherose in the cap table, and yeah, all being really nice.
You're getting ahead with the conversation around strategic angels, because I mean Shaherose being on your cap table, it's like, well, duh, of course. Like I mean, given you what you've kind of where you've worked and Nike and your first, like, I mean, just it made so much sense. But there's a serendipity piece here, but there's a strategic angel piece here as well. But Shaherose, like, what were you up to at that time when you were at Nike? Can you talk a little bit about that for the audience? Like, I mean, I've kind of gone on a deep dive now of you, but for people who don't know, like, what did you do at Nike? And then also, what was that time when you actually wrote the check? What were you doing then?
For sure. Thank you. Yeah. So the Nike journey was so unexpected for me. So, you know, I took a meeting with someone back in end of 2017, and they had emailed me. So it was a friend of a friend who emailed me and said, Nike's launching a new corporate incubator. You've run an incubator before. You've started your own. Do you think you could help them? And I was like, help them? Okay, sure. And so I jump on a call and they're like, this is what we're doing. We're going to invest in founders. We're going to build the future of wellness, the future of sustainability, the future of commerce. And we don't know how to structure this. Like, we don't actually know how to go through the journey of building companies from 0 to 1 and getting them to scale. Sounds like it's something you've done. I'm like, yeah, sure. Happy to talk. And so I go meet them in person and they're like, can you come for 6 months? I'm like, sure. Like, I happen
At this point, are you taking it seriously at this point? Or were you like, these are just conversations? Let's see.
So it was really interesting. I was at a point where I had just come off running Women 2.0 full time, and I was in a place where I was doing 3 to 6 month sprints with funds and founders on their 0 to 1, either product or brand. So I was in this mode of just meeting people and like helping them again.
Yeah.
Really like get started on something. And so this was just one of those conversations to me. I'm like, cool, it's going to be another project and who knows where this is going to go. And as the conversation progressed, I realized, okay, this is actually not just a project. This is like going to take a lot of time. And so anyway, what did we end up doing? Uncovering what Nike really wanted to do, which was to really drive new ideas and new revenue streams within the 3 areas of wellness, sustainability, and commerce by initially investing into founders so that we can get them to scale. Over time, we realized to really align to the corporate goals was actually to hire entrepreneurs and residents to do the work. So what I did was really create the first incubator that did that took former founders who were in these spaces and had new insights about how we could create value for customers and let them go through that 0 to 1 journey. We gave them all the resources they needed, sort of a lean startup incubator, like kind of like what I'd done in the past, staff them up, figure them out, and like also give them the Nike 101, because you're designing a startup, but like really and for Nike, which was kind of weird. And so it was a really like circuitous way to do innovation. It's like, well, start with the innovation from the customer and what's the insight, but also let's make it work for this big engine. And that was a big tension. It was probably one of the most mind-bending experiences I've had in terms of stretching what I know into new places and new contexts. And so that's really what the work was. It was a true like idea generation engine to get Nike to really innovate. And so we had new ideas pop up. Some of them reached scale, some of them died. It was a huge roller coaster inside the company because it's a corporation that doesn't expect to like start things and destruct them so quickly. But that's what we had to do. We had to like,
this ain't working.
Yeah, and that's actually really hard on the psyche. So like when you're in a very sort of like stable corporate environment and you're literally blowing up ideas, it created a lot of instability for the psyche of the people that were involved. And so we had to manage that. But I digress. It was a really amazing opportunity. We had the chance to present all our ideas to the C-suite and really show them what the future was. And it was a wild ride that I thought would take 6 months, but of course it ended up taking 5 years.
I mean, that does not sound like a 6-month journey. Either they were saying that to be like, guys, let's just get her in the door, or they literally had no idea. And they were like, oh,
no. They literally, they're like, so let's just get her in.
Yeah. But what an experience of a lifetime. I mean, truly.
For sure. No, and coming from a family of athletes, I think it was like, and me, not the athlete, my mom, the competitive athlete, my brother, the competitive athlete.
Love hearing that.
Yeah, like the idea of being around a brand and a company that just embraces competition. I think for me personally, like I never identified as an athlete until I walked into Nike and was like, I am competitive to my bones. I am an athlete in all the other ways. And I really embraced that identity while I was there. And it was part of me, again, probably culturally related, that the word never resonated for me until that time.
And that now this idea of athlete genes or athlete DNA is something that we all kind of, even the weekend warrior can own, and they can certainly buy. They can certainly buy and feel it. And then when did you, so like what were you doing when you and Ishveen, like when that was an official, wrote the check?
Yeah, that's it. So I think I was still at Nike at the time, if I remember correctly, because I know I had to get approval to make the investment. And so this is when Ishveen was doing her Series A/C+. I had started angel investing on my own, and over time had joined a sort of syndicate or a collective of people who were investing together, and Ethan was one of them. And so as she was in that position to offer me the chance to invest, I just said yes. I didn't really think much about it. I was like, this is awesome, this makes sense, and I love you.
Honestly, Ishveen, I say this to my girlfriends, like, some women, they're like, oh, I missed that latest drop on that Sephora lipstick. In my head, I'm like, oh, I missed meeting Ishveen when she was fundraising pre-Series A. Like, that's the stuff that I'm like, I sit here because truly what you've built is simple to understand. And it's like, wait, this didn't exist. And I mean, I was listening to your Bay HQ pod about talking about how that moment, that spark of like, what, you are a huge athlete in India. I think it was a cricketer, if I'm right. And you were saying that he was like, oh yeah, I can't get sponsorship once I cross the pond. And that was the spark, and that was the moment for you. But I think for me, and just, as a collector of stories of brown girl founders, it's the trajectory, it is the cap table that you have, and it is just the way you've methodically built and fundraised. So let me ask you this, just to specific, because I think sometimes some of these questions you ask broadly, like what's the right time to fundraise, it's like, I mean, that's like so many variables. If you could answer it specific to open sponsorship, what were those markers? Did you set them in advance to say, when I hit this, I know I need to fundraise? Or was it this kind of reactive process between the seed to the Series A?
I would say I'm probably not the blueprint for this.
Okay.
I was always a bit more cautious about going out to market. I think our first ever fundraise, when we went through 500, was fairly grueling. And like, I enjoy sales. I obviously work in a sales environment, right? Doing sponsorship. It's different when you're selling yourself and your company. Like, the product is good, so that's easier to sell. I'm selling athletes, I'm not selling us. Anyway, so I found fundraising quite grueling, interesting. I think founders often optimize for efficiency, and processes like fundraising are not efficient, right? Because you have to have hundreds of meetings to get 3 yeses, right? And
while doing your real day job of building.
Yeah, exactly. And so I naturally cut our fundraising the first time around a bit short, because I was like, right, well, I'm leaving San Francisco to go back to New York. I should have raised more the first time, one. So that was the big learning. Raise as much as you can early, if you can. The second time round, I think we raised too late. I was quite, definitely I'm the kind of founder that, which is good for today's times, especially.
Yes.
Like, I see all the flaws, right? So I'm like, oh, these are all the holes that you could poke. That typical story, like a guy will read a job description and think they can do it when they're 50% qualified. A woman will see the 20% she can't do and not, right?
Yes.
So I definitely felt like, oh, if I just hit it, I think I was like, if we hit 1 million in revenue, or if we do this, or if we get a bit less churn. And there was always another metric I was seeking for. And in hindsight, I didn't need to wait as long as we did, right? I think we were in a stronger position than we were. So I would say, to that point, I do think, like, don't change the goalpost, but it is quite hard, because you raise, Shaherose will attest to this, when you raise on the story of what you're going to achieve. That's BS.
Yeah.
But I didn't really realize that. So I was like, we're going to do 3 million in the next 2 years. We weren't doing 3 million. So in my head, I'm like, oh, we failed. We're not doing the numbers I thought we would be doing. But those numbers were kind of, for investment, they're a little bit dodge. Like, it always...
Projections.
Their projections. One of my investors calls it very expensive lessons. You raise, you have very expensive lessons, you figure shit out, and then you implement. I think the time to raise is when you've done the expensive lessons and you've just started figuring things out. I think I used to be like, I figured it out, now I need to implement for a year to prove that I've learned what I've learned. So it's an interesting, I mean, Shaherose, I presume you have, it's a very good question, so I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. And
yeah, I mean, you have data, Shaherose. Like, just, I'm so curious, also from a gender lens, if you could add your take on that?
Man, so in all the investments that I've done and companies that I've helped, it's the worst answer, which is like, it's different for everyone.
Yeah, depends. Yeah.
And I hate that answer. But now I really like deeply understand it. And I think the best time to raise is based on the stage. And so when we're talking like day zero investing, the best time to raise is when you as a founder have the highest conviction in your idea. You have a deep understanding of the customer. You have some ideas about how you're going to solve it. You have some indication that there is a need for it. You have the data that proves that this market will either be big or growing or is changing in a way that makes it a good condition. So like there's a list of things that I think at day zero need to be done. And that makes it a good time to raise for your first round. Call it your pre-seed or friends and family. So just to recap, right? Like I have conviction in myself and I have ideally my team, I would say that's important. You have a clear idea of the customer. You understand them deeply. You have hopefully a unique insight, a contrarian insight about their problem. And you have a bunch of ideas of how you're going to solve it. And the market conditions are good. And good in that it's like a small market and growing, a big market with white space, however you want to like make sense of the market, but you feel like there's room and opportunity for you to exist. And that sets you up to really achieve a bunch of milestones to get to the next stage, which hopefully is your seed. And again, it's not super cut and dry, but let's just go for it, right? When is the best time to raise your seed? Today, in this market, it is when you have early signs of traction. And in the previous market, that could have been $50K in revenue for the year. And now it's like $50K MRR.
Yeah, that's traction.
You know what I mean? So like the bar has gone up for seed, but it's when there's transactions happening, a product is working, and it really gives you a sense of early traction. You still can't say for sure that you have product market fit, but you have the early signals that tell you that you have captured a customer segment that does want to pay for this, and they're retaining and they're staying, or whatever the business model is, the engine is starting to move, and that you're raising money. The best time to raise is you're raising money now to expand the team and like grow this by either putting in marketing or distribution strategies into place. And then the journey goes from here. Series A, you've really got product market fit. You're in the multi-millions in revenue and so on and so forth. My focus is this stage up until Series A. And so that's when I think the best time to raise. It's sort of like you've done the things, you've hit these things for yourself, so that when you do show up, the projections are rooted in some data, even if it's experimental data, but there's really clear reason to believe yourself and to believe the story that you're telling, that you're going to achieve the milestones in the following 18 months.
Listening to what you're saying about the raise early, it reminds me of something that Ishveen, that you had said, that I wish more of my family and friends and my family and friends round were on this ride with me, and that there's various reasons that we don't. Just your kind of commentary on that.
Yeah, I think it's actually a really interesting moment that I had. It was about 4 years ago, and I remember, I can't remember whether it was when I invested in a friend or someone was investing in me, and I remember thinking of the investment as a privilege for the first time in my life. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, that's so funny. Actually, and interestingly also, one of my girlfriends runs an amazing company. And I was like, I wish I'd invested in your company. And I'd never thought like that before. I was there when she started and I'd never thought like that before. And whether that's like, there's so many factors in that, right? Like, one, we don't do it. Two, exactly what Shaherose's mom said, like, are they going to pay you back or whatever? Yeah. Two, the confidence that I have the money to be able to do that, right? Like, what is 10, 15K in your lifetime? Like if we need to start thinking a bit more, well, not we need to, but I would like to start thinking a bit more like that.
Girl, you're talking to Brown Girl Angels. Yes, we need to.
Yeah,
We need to.
exactly. Yeah.
Yes.
3 is this idea that like, I back you as my friend. Like if I'm gonna, this idea that like the average, what is it? Like you're the average of the people you spend time with. And I really believe that, right? Your personality, your mannerisms, your thought processes. If you spend time with positive people, you're positive, negative, you're negative. If that's the case, and I spend most of my time with you, time is the number one asset we have. What is money? And like this idea that like that especially as women, right? Like we don't put our money where our mouth is. And so I just remember now being like, now I would love to do more angel investing, but of course I think it's this idea of we have to also be good at like the long-term planning.
Yes.
Like that, that's the weakness, which is like I've got angel investments, but I haven't set up my pension or 401k yet. So like,
yes.
Don't shoot me, but you know what I mean?
No, and we need to stop listening to content creators that say it's a get rich quick scheme. It's like, and to your point, it's higher up the financial ladder. But even so, there are women in our circles who have that means, like you said, of the 10 and 15, who just aren't. And it might be a risk tolerance issue. It might be a cultural issue. It might be I didn't even know what angel investing was. That's actually a thing issue. It could be any of those things. So I think to that, I mean, that's a complete flip of the script is what I'm hearing from you from when you were raising, where you felt like this was the big ask versus the other way around, where now for your friend's company, you're like, oh my God, I get to be a part of it so early on. I get to be on the cap table. Like, this is amazing.
Yeah, I didn't know family and friends. Absolutely zero. I would never have asked anyone to like give me money because what if I lost it? But there's also this idea that like, okay, well, again, there's also this beautiful idea that like, fine, I might not make you this time round, but then I'll make you good in the next. Like, I've invested in companies where people have been like, okay, we'll let you in on the next deal or we'll convert something. So I think like the idea that you realize it might not work and it's okay, but I'm investing in you as a human. And I am surprised that I did not think that anyone should have invested in me as a human, which is a bit sad.
Yeah. Well, it's not, because it actually helps me mention something that I feel like I could get canceled for not saying, which is, by the way, audience, when she was referring to Serena, she was referring to Serena Williams, like from the place of what you're talking about and where you started to your cap table now. This is your opportunity, Ishveen, whether or not you like it. Name drop. You've already name dropped Shaherose. Name drop who's on your cap table, please. We'll just go quiet.
Yeah. So our lead investors are Serena Williams, obviously absolutely amazing human being, super active in the investment process and asking questions. Other lead investor is David Blitzer, who basically owns a sports team. I think he owns a sports team in every major US league and the Premier League. And then Eric Stern, David Stern. So I mean, Baron Davis, like amazing people. And I think, as I said, though, it took me a long time to get there, though. And that's the one thing I wish I could have like sped up everything a little bit more. So the confidence out there to people is like,
you're speeding it up for someone else, maybe.
Yeah,
right now.
hopefully. Like, if you believe in yourself enough to start a company by yourself, like the opportunity cost of starting your own company is so huge. If you believe in yourself, like other people will believe in you too.
Let's go beyond the check. What does describe? I mean, she's right in front of you, but like describe a strategic angel beyond the check. What does that look like? Shaherose and Ishveen. Shaherose, why don't you start with like, hey, here's how I show up as a strategic angel. Not just to Ishveen, but to generally speaking.
Yeah, look, it's different for every company, and I always want to do more for Ishveen. But I know when I was at Nike, I tried to push the company in, open sponsorship as a vendor, right? And so like I still do that whenever possible. If any of my portfolio companies benefit from a relationship with Nike, I make that intro. I shop it around, right? Even now that I'm no longer there. Me personally, like it's all about the founder coming to me when they're looking for something, but in particular, my areas that I love to sort of spend time on include brand for obvious reasons. I love building brands and thinking about brands early. early product feedback, which I remember doing with Ishveen's team members when they were pivoting to a different model. I think it was the auction model time frame. I remember that. And really the last thing is like leadership, people, culture. So like anything that just feels like hard on the people side, on the roles, on the structure, on the incentives, on the culture. Like you're building a company the minute you start the company, even if it's just you and your co-founder. And people forget that that's when culture begins, right? Values start shaping the behaviors and behaviors start shaping outcomes. And if you're not paying attention to what's happening at that day in that moment when you start the company, you're not paying attention to what kind of company you're building internally. And I really believe startups can be great places to work if founders are intentional about culture and intentional about clarity of role, clarity of values, clarity of goals. And we forget that because we're hustling.
This is it.
So that part I really love to sort of like bring to the fore. And so, yeah, with every startup, it's different.
What about you, Ishveen? When to someone listening, because they hear this like, it's not, don't just raise money from anybody, be intentional. So to a founder listening, what does that mean about don't be intentional in who you're raising from?
Yeah. I think there's a difference between like big checks and small checks, firstly, right?
Great.
So like your big checks are the people who are they're the ones that are gonna apply the pressure. They make a difference to your like psyche. The small checks are people who believed in you and they're there for you, and they're probably actually more helpful because they're not so tied to the outcome as much. And they're there for like the bit of like the journey with you, whereas the big checks are there for the investment side, right? And so I think see them differently. I probably don't do as much as I should do, like calling on our investors. And I think it's partly like when you're in the fundraising process, you like just hearing Shaherose, I'm like, oh, I should really like note to people out there, I should have had like a list of all of our investors and even the ones that are in a consortium and been like, what is your strengths? And I think one of the things that's a struggle is as the CEO, everyone wants to help you, but actually like what Shaherose was mentioning, she met with our product team to talk about something. And actually a lot of the times what you need is people to connect the links between the investor and like the tech co-founder or like the marketing person or whatever else, because you only have so many hours in the day. And so when I tend to lean on people right now, I'd say one is like, think of us when you can, right? Like like this is a great example, right? You wanted us on the podcast, like who can I call on? Great, Shaherose, can you make some time? So I think it's like think of us when you can, be available when we need you, and then remembering the moment. So like we're thinking about next milestones. Obviously, Shaherose has seen a lot of people like exit or raise again or whatever else, and so it's like capturing that. And then I think the third thing is like when you say like it's not just money, like don't have dickheads on your cap table.
Yeah.
Like that's the like you are they're talking about the privilege.
Now I'm gonna have to explain to my mom what that means, but yes, go ahead. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding, Ishveen. I'm kidding. My mom won't make it this far. She's like, she's doing some real estate thing. I'm not interested.
Exactly. I'd say like I'm working my ass off. I know you gave me a check, but like,
please don't give me more work, man.
Yeah, like don't make it worse. Don't make it worse for me. Yeah. And so I think that's like the really important thing is like, are these people that you want to make money for? Like the idea of like failing and losing Serena Williams's money. Like I know she's rich, but like I don't want to fail her. She's too good for me to fail. And that's a massive motivational driver for me, which is insane to think that is one of my biggest drivers. But like, I'm like, I want to make her proud. And so I think like thinking of your cap table as like, you're working for these people. Do you want to work for them?
Yeah. I think like one thing I'll add is like having been an angel is my mindset. And even now as a VC is like, yes, Ishveen, you're working for us. And my success is your success. Right. So to come in and be a DICK head, like how does that bring success to you and me? It actually doesn't, right? Like if I was to barrage you. So like anyone who's listening and wondering like how to show up, it's like think of it that way, right? Like when your founders succeed, you get to reap that value as well. And I think that's so important to remember that there's a whole chain of things that need to happen. And if you're behaving as an angel in that way, just it's not helpful. And one thing I'll add that Ishveen sort of touched on is you think about who you add to the cap table and how they can be helpful. When you think about angels and you think about VCs, like their actual first value add is being able to help you fundraise. Why? Because they're in those circles, right? Angels know other angels. VCs know other VCs. I've seen thousands of pitch decks. How many times do I sit down and actually the number one thing I spend my time on is fundraising support, storytelling, connections, introductions, right? So like if you get nothing other than fundraising help, you've gotten the thing that those people are best in class at, right? Because they're in those circles and they're doing that every day.
And I do just want to point out though that like, I don't know what your thoughts are on this, Shaherose, but like you do a lot of investing and there's only so much they can help you, right? Like it's not their day job. They don't have that many hours. Yeah, like I can imagine that people are like, well, Shaherose works at Nike and she's done brand and like all the things you just raised. Okay, but it's like if I message her, we're gonna have half an hour once a quarter if I'm mad, like not even that, right? So like I think there is this element of like, let's be real, like these are your investors. Their number one value add was the money. Like I love what you just said, is to help you raise more money. When I need to raise again, they'll be there. But they're not working for you and there's only so much they can do. And so just be realistic around that.
100%, right? Like they're not in your shoes. They don't know the context. They don't know the flow of what's happening. Thank you for saying that. We don't know. Also, so many investors, whether they're angels or VCs, have never even run a business.
True.
Themselves. So just totally anyone, whether you're a founder listening or you're an investor listening, like, yeah, like take our advice, but like really listen to yourself.
Before, just to kind of wrap this up, I could not be on a call with both of you and not talk about the fact, well, hi, we're celebrating us, 3 brown women, founder, angel, VC. I'm somewhere in there in the middle. But let's talk about South Asian women. And really what I was saying before we started recording was, Ishveen, right before you came on, I was like, Shaherose was the OG brown girl angel. Like for me to even be like, I run brown girl angels. I'm like, she was talking about diversity in tech spaces in Silicon Valley back in 1999. As I was saying to her, I was like, I think I should act more white. That is me getting along with people. Like I truly ahead of the game when, and I have to say, like even watching some of the clips on Bloomberg, I think it was, or where you went and talked about why this is important. And sorry to the journalists if they ever hear this, but they were listening, but I don't know if they were receiving. And there's no way you didn't experience that in conversations you had. So to wrap this up, being in these spaces as founder, as investor, what are some of the joyful things you're seeing? What are some of the shifts you're seeing? I mean, to me, Ishveen running that's a whole other episode, that the fact that Ishveen is running one of the largest marketplaces for athletes. Like, sorry, Bend It by Beckham, but you feel like old news now, right? Like this is what an amazing time we're in. So I would love to know, Shaherose, from those days to now, what are some of the things that are uplifting that you see? And Ishveen, from a like the founders you're around, the athletes that you might be seeing, because I know that you talk about this. I've heard you talk about the split of men to women and the fact that women still get 50% of the deals on the platform. So I'd love to hear something like just that's making you smile in a positive direction.
Yes, to positivity. I don't want to talk about anything negative. There's so much to balance. Thank you.
I wasn't going to start for the 2% funding. I just literally want to go hide under something every time I hear that stat. I'm like, there are other stats.
So here's the stuff that's exciting. And I'm trying to think if I have numbers to back it up, and I may or may not, but anecdotally. So just to make a correction, I've been holding this flag up since '05, not '99. But maybe in my heart, it started then.
Lifelong. We're going with lifelong.
Lifelong,
We're
which
going
is
with lifelong.
still also a long time ago. It's 20 years ago, right? Um, so what's positive now? So as now that I'm on the other side of the table as an investor, I have more and more co-investor VCs who are women, whether they're at a mega fund or they've started their own fund. And I'm not talking about in the last 2 to 3 years, which is true, for the last 10 years, right? So my co-investor list of people I reach out to now is mostly women, not because I'm trying to, right? But there's just simply more women on that side of the table, which I think is a huge, huge, huge win. Organizations like All Raise have really played a role in that, and many others. I'm sure we, as Women 2.0, played some role in it as well back
Yes.
then. I know the numbers on founders. I have no comment on that, but we're seeing women still start. It doesn't mean they're not starting. The other thing that I would say that keeps me smiling or gets me excited is the shift towards more women's sports, but not just the players, right? I have a number of friends from Nike who went and angel funded the various sports teams behind that. And to have women on the cap table of women's sports is so cool, right?
Yes.
Like
What a
that
moment
is
we're
just
in.
so exciting. So that's sort of where I'm really pumped.
What about you, Ishveen? I mean, yeah, you could talk to it from a sports at large because that is your world, or you could talk to it specific to open sponsorship and what you're seeing, founders. Take a
Yeah,
pick.
I'll also like just dive into the South Asian side of things. So not just women, but like, um, I think that is really key because often there's a lot of like male South Asians who are very visible in the tech world, and often people are like, well, South Asians are fine, and it's like, well, no, the women are not, right? Like there was for a while there was like Indira Nooyi and literally no one
And
else, and
that
then
was it. Yeah,
then that was
yeah,
it, right?
yeah.
And I think there's like, I mean, you guys are doing a great job of this, like
Thank
raising,
you.
like, I had no idea that she's now trending all over social media, the CEO of uh, one of the big consumer brands, and
Um,
everyone's talking about how Gucci, is it, or
oh yeah. Oh, sorry, Chanel. You're
Chanel,
talking
yeah,
about
yeah.
Miss Nair.
Yeah,
My
yeah, yeah.
God.
And I
Yes.
had no idea that the CEO of Chanel globally was like a South Asian female. And I'm like, that's like awesome. But I think what we need to remember is like, for everyone listening, is
Lena
yes,
Nair.
there's
I
like
just had to.
20,
Yeah,
there's like 20 people up there,
that's right.
but we need more people in the mass, right? Like, there's
In the trenches.
not,
Yeah.
yeah, we're like, we need to be in the trenches together and help each other and talk to each other on all of that. From an athlete perspective, actually, we just did our first deal with Ibtihaj Mohammed and Western Union, which was a massive highlight for me
With
because,
wow,
yeah, like, I
Western
absolutely
Union is
love,
huge.
well, Western Union, but Ibtihaj is like one of the, I just like love her as an athlete and what she stands for and everything else.
Yeah.
And so I think like that's really cool, which is like, again, I don't know if no offense to my white male counterparts, but would they care so much about doing a deal for her versus like a
Right.
star quarterback of a college? So I think the reason why you want diversity in the room is so that we encourage these kind of deals. And we just did one for Satnam, the guy who got drafted for the first
Yes.
draftee of the NBA. So I think like I want to do more South Asian deals in America, and that's like fun for me and a passion project that I can actually make that happen. So that's probably quite exciting where I sit today.
You're a decision maker and you
Yeah.
get to influence that and you get to care about that. And in verticals like sport, it's like what Shaherose was saying earlier too about, the joys is that we're not, there's an assumption that I hear, and I'll talk about this often until it changes. Well, I don't need to talk about it anymore, which is that, we're not just in beauty, folks. Like South Asian women are in so many verticals. Like Ishveen, what you're doing is just a key example of that. And I think why is that even important to talk about is because there's a woman who's like, that's the difference of her wanting to having an idea and doing nothing with it because she's like, oh, what am I going to do in that vertical? I shouldn't be in that. It literally seeing someone in a space that you think is not for you is what makes someone start or feel seen, which what does that actually mean is that it's the difference of the idea living in your head. As we know, ideas are plenty, execution is the actual go, and that's the difference maker. So I mean, now I have to just close this off and be an auntie and say, I hope your parents are so proud of you. I mean, am I just aging myself doing that, Ishveen? I mean, we all are. Like, truly,
it's the only reason we work. It's the only reason we work, right? For our parents' praise.
Yeah, that's a dizzy way to close it. What a joy! What a joy, both of you. I literally could hold on to you, but you are a busy founder, and you are a busy VC angel mom, unshackled venture partner. I mean, just like the list is so long, Shaherose. I don't even know which one to. I'm about to start recording the intro. I don't even know where to start with that. You're amazing.
Thank you.
You are truly, truly an inspiration. It's such a joy.
Thank you for doing this. I'm so fun. I don't get to spend enough time with my people. So let's do this again.
Yes.
Thanks, Shaherose.
To learn more about angel investing and to get involved in mobilizing your capital and funding South Asian female founders building scalable companies, enter our world. You can find us at browngirlangels.com. Now you can also interact with us on major social platforms: Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn. And of course, grab your chai, open your inbox, because there's our newsletter, Brown Girls Money Moves. Do also attend one of our Brown Girl Angels events in your city. We host a monthly dinner series called Brown Girls Desi Dinners, so make sure to sign up for that. Thanks for listening to Brown Girls Bold Moves. I'm your host, Bhargavi Varma. This podcast is produced by Edit Audio and associate produced by Cam Graywall. Don't forget to hit follow so you never miss an episode.